So this topic's been beat to death 1,000 times, so why not make it 1,001 and add one more video? Today, we're gonna install an amp and subs. I already did the deck on a different video, so if you're looking for the deck part, you gotta go back. So first up, we have our 4-gauge power wire. What you wanna do is make sure it's connected to the battery. You don't wanna connect it to the battery yet, you just wanna find a spot. You also need to find a spot in the firewall. This car happens to be an Acura Integra from 1998, so it's as old as the dirt it's sitting on. We're gonna get a hole in the firewall. There's probably one there already. At some point, I'm sure it had a stereo. You're gonna run it all the way through the car. Now, pretty much on all cars, it's the same in certain areas. So once you come through the firewall, you'll pull the carpet back, you'll pop this panel off. It's just held in with clips generally. Sometimes cars have screws, but for the most part, it's just clips. And then all the way up, underneath here, through the seat, and into the back. And just like that, we got our 4-gauge wire back here. Now, you don't need 4-gauge wire. It's dependent on the voltage that you're drawing or amperage you're drawing from your amp, but we have our wire run across there and all the way up here, not hooked up to the battery yet. Next up is your ground wire. So at this point, you're gonna wanna know where you're putting your amplifier. I'm gonna put mine, I think, right on the box right here. And your ground is gonna go on the body, preferably the frame or chassis, so somewhere metal and solid. And you want to screw that right to a nice clean metal surface. All right, so we got the ground ran, and I just used an existing bolt hole. Shout out to Honda for that. I'll end up fixing it later because I want to deal with this mess. Anyway, next up is the RCA cable. So these will plug into the back of the deck or head unit. Preferably if you have one that says subwoofer spot, because it filters a little bit better, but it has a little more voltage output. But if not, it's not a big deal. So we'll start that now. Now, as a rule, it's a general rule, you want to run them on the opposite side. So I have my power cable there. You want to run them on the same side, or opposite side, sorry, of the car. So where my ground is what I was trying to say. So I'm going to run them down that side of the car. So generally, to finish one thing at a time. Finish the project you started, but I put it outside and it started to rain. So we're going to come over to the sub box. Now, the sub box, don't judge. The neighbor kid made this sub box. We all tried for the first time, and we're going to make it work. We're going to end up filling the gaps. I think I'm just going to fiberglass the whole thing. I'll go over it with like a 1 gram fiberglass. But anyway, we got the 15-inch subs to go in here. I'm going to punch a hole in them. We're going to wire this in. I don't remember if these are 4 ohm or 2 ohm. Okay, we got to figure that out. The amplifier is 1 ohm stable, so we'll figure that out. But let's get into this while we wait for that to dry. So they were in fact dual voice coil 4 ohm. Now what dual voice coil, DVC, stands for is instead of having 1 voice coil, you actually have 2. But you want to be careful, because if your amplifier is not ohm stable in whatever your configuration you're running it in, I happen to be running mine in 1 ohm because that is 1 ohm stable. So I'm running 4 ohm, 4 ohm, 4 ohm. So I could run this in 4 ohm or 8 ohm or whatever, but right now it's wired to 1 ohm. So parallel means the power comes in here. I just punched a hole in the bottom of my shitty box there that I'm gonna fix. Power comes in there, goes over to here, 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 there. Now, if this were wired in series, it'd be a little bit different. You'd end up having the negative going to the positive. Or, you know what, hold on a second. Be back. So we got here, so this is parallel, this is how I have it wired. And then if you had it in series, you'd have 4 ohms. Right? And then single sub at 2 ohms or single sub at 8 ohms. So hopefully that helps you guys out. Now I'm gonna end up screwing these in. Now I'm not gonna use all the screws because I plan on taking this apart and I'm gonna fiberglass the whole thing, but for the sake of the video and just testing things out, I'm just gonna put like probably 3 or 4 screws in each sub just to kind of keep it there. I went ahead and I threw the amplifier on. I just threw 2 screws in it just to kind of hold it on there. Again, like an hour after this video, I'm gonna take this all apart and fiberglass it, but I figured that's a separate video, so we could do this first. So let's talk about something for a second here. When you're talking about power on a speaker, those speakers are rated at 2100 watts. That does not mean you can go blast 4,000 watts into 2 speakers. No, you're gonna have a problem. What that means is it can take one big punch basically at 2100 watts. Now, the recommended RMS of that speaker is not on here. I'm gonna guess it's more like 500. It's a 15-inch sub, so it should be able to take something. Hold on a sec. They don't say. I'm gonna guess it's about 500 watts. So we could put 1,000 watts into that safely. Now, RMS, that's root mean square, if I remember right in tech school. So going back to tech school, Root means square, I believe, something like that. RMS. That is the continuous power you can put into the speaker. Again, just because it says 2100 watts does not mean that. You're gonna do that one time and that'll be it. Next thing I want to talk about is amplifiers. Same thing with an amplifier. Now, amplifiers are generally rated in different ohms. So this one, for example, is 3000 watts. It's rated at 1 ohm. If you wire this to 4 ohms or 8 ohms or something, it's gonna be like 200 watts. So something to keep in mind when you're looking at stuff is the continuous power, what it can take, especially in amplifiers, how many ohms stable it is. Stable is the word you want to look for. If it's a 4 ohm stable amplifier and you go try and wire it to 1 ohm like I just did, not gonna happen. So I've got this all together now. So again, we wired it to 1 ohm, put it parallel. Yeah, we're gonna get in the car next and then finish wiring on the amp once it stops raining. I can try and find room in here, but I got my neighbor's snowblower all apart. Carbon fiber I'm finishing back there. For, if you don't know, I make carbon fiber stuff. You can see it on other videos and various other shit. So we're gonna do this outside, but we have a thunderstorm happening, so we're gonna wait. All right, to review, we've got our sub wiring we just went through. Now, back here in the back of the car, I'm gonna have to shorten a bunch of this stuff. Ignore what is going on here. So we have our 4 gauge coming in, and that goes to the battery where we have the fuse. We'll go up there in a minute. I could probably take about 3 feet off of that. We have our RCA cables. We can't really shorten these. Don't use a cheap RCA cable. This is probably the cheapest you want to use. This is a Boss, but don't use anything, especially home audio stuff. This is your signal wire, so this goes up to your signal on at your deck. It's also known as a remote antenna wire. We have got our ground wire. This is temporary. I'm gonna end up moving it into the carpet over here, but I gotta get this carpet out and get a different one. And then we have our remote. So, going up to the front of the car. This is what I was talking about before. So I just threw this on here for a minute here because I have 2 blue wires. I wanna make sure I have the right one. If I do, then I'll end up soldering them like I did these ones. Now on the back here, you've got, see as it's labeled, you've got RR, right rear, RL, rear left, FR, front right, FL, front left. Now this is what you want. SW, subwoofer rear, or sorry, subwoofer right, subwoofer left. That's the one you want to use right there. Don't, I mean, these will work, but not as good as this will work down here. And then that's where you're going to plug in your RCAs, is down here. And time to get this thing all hooked up and see if all the fruits of our hard work has paid off. This whole video has taken me 30 minutes. It works good. I was using the radio just a second ago, but here's our options. So this thing's pretty old. We've got radio, USB iPod. I use an iPhone, but my iPhone 15 is not compatible apparently. SD card and auxiliary. Does anybody own a CD anymore? Maybe we can do that. Frick. A couple days I literally went on Marketplace and picked up a new deck. When I say new, I mean new to me. So let's try this thing out here because I haven't tried it yet. See what kind of community violation we can get here. When's the bass coming on this song? Does anybody know? Oh! Damn! Ooh, that pumps! Hey, by the way, nothing going on there. My niece is in town visiting and always wants Uncle Steve to look his best.